Shelton actually Englished, to use the verb coined by James Fitzmaurice Kelly in 1896. Shelton actually Englished the Quixote in 1607, only 2 years after it was first published in Spain. And this brings us right back here to Flanders House. You might be thinking, what has Don Quixote got to do with a country of windmills? I don't know. But in 1607, Shelton lived in Brussels, and the Spanish language edition that he translated from in 40 furious days, just as a favour to a friend, was the Belgian edition of that same year, 1607. And scholars know this because certain idiosyncrasies of phrase and pagination are only present in the Belgian edition of 1607, and they're reproduced in Sheldon's text and in his footnotes, sprinkled through the edition. And the extract I'm going to read, thinking again about speech, is comprised, and thinking about direct speech, is comprised solely of the direct speech tags in order of appearance in the novel. And this is a book-length work, but we're going to give you 7 minutes worth, okay? If I had to give it a title, it might be Replied Don Quixote. Quoth I, quoth I, quoth I. Our burnished adventurer, travelling thus onward, did parley with himself in this manner, and therefore said to them, he requested his host to have special care of his horse, saying, he said unto them with a very good grace, replied Don Quixote, quoth Don Quixote, he laid himself down upon his knees in it before him, saying, seeing him approach, said unto him with a loud voice, he said, and laying hand on his sword, he said, quoth he, the good lady said, and scarce had he heard them when he said, but Don Quixote, viewing all that passed, said with an angry voice, and therefore he answered with very mild and submissive words, saying, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Don Quixote, replied the boy's master, quoth the boy, quoth Don Quixote, quoth the youth, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Andrew, quoth his master, quoth Don Quixote, he returned to his man Andrew and said to him, quoth Andrew, quoth the farmer, quoth he. He lifted his voice and said, and therefore one of them, who was somewhat given to gibbing, and was withal very discreet, said unto him, quoth Don Quixote. He cried, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Master Curate, and therefore he began to cry aloud. Quoth the old woman straightway, quoth the curate, replied the niece, quoth the barber. Replied the curate, quoth the barber, replied the curate, quoth the curate, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, said the niece, quoth the curate. Answered Master Nicholas, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, replied the curate, quoth old Mopsilus. Quoth the barber, replied the curate, quoth the curate. The barber, taking another book, said, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, replied the curate, replied the barber, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, quoth the curate with a loud voice. Quoth the barber, said the curate, quoth Don Quixote, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, quoth the barber, quoth the curate, quoth the curate, quoth the barber, said the curate, said the barber, quoth the curate, said the curate. Quixote began to cry aloud, saying, he said, turning himself to the curate, quoth the curate, quoth Don Quixote, she has one well schooled before what she should answer, said. Quoth Don Quixote, quoth the old woman, quoth Don Quixote, quoth his niece, quoth Don Quixote, and Sancho Panza, seeing the opportunity good, said to his master, to which Don Quixote replied, said Don Quixote, replied Sancho Panza, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, he said to his squire, quoth Sancho Panza, quoth his lord, quoth Sancho Panza, quoth Don Quixote, said as loud as he could, which Don Quixote, espying, said, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, said Sancho Panza, and turning it to his squire, he said, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, said Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, answered Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, he said to his squire, quoth Sancho, he said with a loud voice, quoth Don Quixote, to whom he said in his bad Spanish fish. Don Quixote, understanding him, did answer with great stateless. The Biscay replied with great fury. Replied Don Quixote, feeling the weight of that unmeasurable blow, cried with a loud voice, saying, and he, continuing still his laughter, said that it began thus. Don Quixote answered with a great loftiness and gravity. Quoth Don Quixote, taking him by the hand, he kissed it, saying, to this demand, Don Quixote answered, until his wearied squire did arrive. He, as soon as he came, said unto him, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, said Sancho Panza. Answered Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, and lifting up his eyes to heaven, he said, Sancho, hearing this said Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, replied Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth his lord. Replied the squire, answered Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, his master, seeing him a foot, said, quoth Sancho, quoth the youth, who was at that time better disposed to sleep than to hear music, and therefore said to his master, answered Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, replied Don Quixote, who said, quoth the youth, quoth one of them, answered the other, quoth one of them, Peter, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Don Quixote, said Peter, quoth Don Quixote, replied Peter, quoth Don Quixote, quoth Peter, quoth Don Quixote, quoth the goat herd. Quoth Don Quixote, said Peter, said Don Quixote, quoth the goat herd, one of the horsemen, speaking to his companions, said, quoth Vivaldo, to whom Don Quixote answered, quoth Don Quixote. He resolved to give him further occasion to pass onward with his follies, and therefore said unto him, quoth Don Quixote, replied the traveller, quoth Don Quixote, replied the traveller, answered Don Quixote, replied the other, Don Quixote answered, quoth the traveller, here Don Quixote, breathing forth a deep sigh, said, quoth Vivaldo, to which Don Quixote answered, replied the traveller, quoth Don Quixote, which one of the goatherds expying, he said, answered Ambrosio, and turning himself to Don Quixote and to the other travellers, he said, quoth Vivaldo, which Ambrosio perceiving said, Ambrosio overheard it and said, replied Vivaldo, to this objection Ambrosio answered, quoth Vivaldo, he spake these words, quoth Marcella, and that I was therefore obliged to answer unto them, he said in loud and intelligible words. And Don Quixote said to Sancho Panza, who seeing his lord near unto him, still with weak and pitiful voice, replied the knight, quoth Sancho, replied Don Quixote, quoth Sancho, quoth the crushed knight, as that he would omit to answer unto him, saying, he said, quoth Sancho, replied Don Quixote, to this the squire answered, replied Don Quixote, I say this. Answered Sancho, replied Don Quixote. Thank you.
Whoa! Really good. Really good. Thank you. Really good.